Another juicy weekend in the NHL and fantasy hockey worlds means another jam-packed Monday episode and waiver wire special of your daily source for fantasy hockey news and betting breakdowns, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Coming in hot for Monday's episode. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Buckle up and here we go, hockey heads. Another week in the fantasy hockey books on tap on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We see and appreciate you. We're going to try and return the favor. On today's episode, of course, we got Monday's bets coming in hot at the end of the show. Steele and I cooking now with gasoline, Mr. Roden, and we're coming in hot for a big week, like I said. And of course, waiver wire Mondays. We're going to maybe try and switch this up a little bit. Steele, a lot of people out there asking for an earlier waiver wire Monday. We'll see what we can do about that. But for now, we got a number of players. Who you looking at? What impressed you? Because another weekend of exciting NHL action in the books and lots of players to look at.
Yeah, it's almost hard to figure out where to start here after what we just witnessed this weekend. Lots of high-scoring action, lots of players under 50% rostered right now who are showing a lot of production in the offensive zone, filling out those peripherals. Flip and I are going to get you every single player you need to target this upcoming week. A lot of teams have 4 games on the schedule. We're going to try to highlight some of those as well. I know you have a Buffalo Sabre player you want to talk about. So do I. So let's start with the Sabres team.
I like it.
Who are on a 3-game winning streak right now. I'm looking at JJ Peterka, 39% on Yahoo. So he's definitely available out there. It's going to be a little bit harder on ESPN where he's rostered at 71% right now. He's got 5 points in his last 3 games. He is in second on the Sabres on the Sabres roster right now in points with 15, I believe. And he's shooting at 20% right now. He is not missing when he gets the puck locked and loaded in the slot, in those scoring, high scoring danger opportunities and areas of the ice. They've got 3 games on the schedule this week, and I love the schedule. That's why I'm highlighting Peterka right now. Okay. The Montreal Canadiens, the St. Louis Blues, and the Philadelphia Flyers, all 3 teams struggling to get wins right now. Obviously, the Canadiens and Flyers at the bottom of the barrel in the Eastern Conference. So very advantageous schedule for this Buffalo Sabres team.
Peterka is going to be snapped up in a lot of leagues, but I like that you're looking at him. I tried this week to go a little bit more under the radar. First and foremost, Zack Benson is under the radar. 3% on Yahoo, 27 on ESPN, 42 on Fantrax. And it's twofold while I'm really liking this player right now. Number 1, Habs, Blues, Flyers, like you mentioned. Number 2, playing on a sneaky good line on the second line right now with Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn. And he's also getting a look on a very good second power play unit, Steele. Alex Tuck, Jack Quinn, Bowen Byram, and Owen Power, and throw Zack Benson in the mix. This is what we expected. And when I say this, I mean the last 3 games of what we've seen from the Sabres. This is what I've expected. I think you can back me up at least offensively from this team. Impressive victory over the New York Rangers on Thursday night, 6-1. Okay, Ottawa, 5-1, doesn't jump off the page, but a gutty 3-2 shootout win against Calgary on Saturday tells me this is the time to get a piece of the Buffalo Sabres. So I'm looking at Zack Benson, a dynamic scorer. You do not get this guy. A lot of the players I'm looking at this week, Steele, they're your fill-in for offensive bump. I got a number of players. I like that you're looking at the Sabres because I think it's very wise. Benson, he's one of my targets. Let me just throw this out of the way before I give it back to you. I have talked about this player on Waiver Wire Monday for the last month, and he is still only owned at 55% on Yahoo and 48% on ESPN, up to 71 on Fantrax. But it's Connor McMichael. I just want to give ourselves a little bit of credit here.
You have
Spoke
to.
about him in the offseason as well, and he is shooting. And I think if you added him, he will be on your team for the rest of the season. For some reason, 55 in Yahoo and 48 in ESPN isn't making any sense. 2 more goals on Saturday. Had to be mentioned, but we'll talk about a lot more players. Over to you.
I love the fact you're mentioning him. I was going to mention him as well, but again, we were looking at players under 50%. He is at
Trying to, yeah.
55%, so he doesn't quite meet the requirement. But if he is available in your league, you got to go snag Connor McMichael right now. Another player that you probably have to go pick up off the waiver wire. For me, it's Gabriel Vilardi. You
Got him on my list too.
Yeah, if we're going to be talking about the waiver wire targets and must adds for this week, we cannot come on here and not talk about the hottest team and one of the hottest players on the team in Gabriel Vilardi right now. 36% owned on ESPN or on Yahoo, 22% on ESPN. You got to get a piece of at least one player from the hottest team in the NHL right now. He is on a 7-game point streak, 9 points in that stretch, 13 points total on the season. They are going, I will preface by saying this, the Jets are going down probably the toughest stretch of the schedule they've had so far in the season.
Yes.
3 games this upcoming week, the Rangers, the Lightning, and the Panthers. So they're really going to be tested, but don't let that phase you whatsoever. They've been dominating a lot of top-tier teams in the NHL right now. They have the best goal differential, and Gabriel Vilardi is probably playing on one of the top 3 best lines in the National Hockey League right now with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor on that top line. First power play time as well for the young right winger. And he's been getting after it with them just like the Winnipeg Jets. So you got to mention and you got to target Gabe Vilardi this upcoming week as well.
Wholeheartedly agree. Even with that tough schedule, this might be one of those ads that sticks, especially because he fits in so nicely alongside Scheifele and Connor. And right now, that line isn't going anywhere anytime soon except up. This is also a player that was an 11th overall draft pick by the Kings back in 2017. Started a little slow, had some injuries. He's 6'3". He's only 25 years old. Good Kingston boy, good Windsor Spitfire, and he can bring it. And I love that you're mentioning this because just by the fact of association on that top line, he's got to be looked at even with the tough schedule this week. I'm still okay with it. Let me talk about a player here, Steele, on a really good Carolina Hurricanes team before we get to break more of our targets and, of course, bets at the end of the show. Tap in all week long. Steele and I will be breaking down some specials, a little who would you rather, perhaps a special guest at the end of the week. We'll get there, but let me get to one more player if you don't mind, because right now, Jack Roslovic scoring goals and getting to play on the top line with Andrei Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho. So right there, that's one of those full stop. You got to get a piece of him right now. And 28 on Fantrax, 11 on Yahoo, 8 on ESPN. And I'll wrap it up with this. Carolina Hurricanes, Senators, Blues, Utah, and the Golden Knights. 4 games, 3 of those pretty advantageous. Really liking the week for Carolina. And Jack Roslovic has been chipping in with timely points here. 9 goals and an assist in 13 games. I'm liking what I'm seeing from this guy right now, Steele.
Yeah, he has been on a heater for the Carolina Hurricanes alongside Martin Necas as well. Carolina Hurricanes continue to get after it. A tough game over the weekend against the Colorado Avalanche. They looked like they had that under control. And then next thing you know, Spencer Martin, 5 goals allowed in 1 period, and they lose that one to the Avalanche, who are getting back into shape. Cale Makar is an absolute beast out there for them, but Jack Roslovic, Zack Benson, JJ Peterka, Gabe Vilardi, the first 4 targets you have to look for off the waiver wire this upcoming week. And we're going to come back after the break, obviously finish up with big time bets, but give you some more highlighting players out there that we need to showcase some love for.
Most definitely. We'll get there right after the break, and we give a little shout out to our friends from PrizePicks. You want to be checking out PrizePicks every single week. Every week, Steele and I are looking at making some coin on PrizePicks, our new favorite fantasy app. You want to be looking at Justin Jefferson, just like Steele, over or under receiving yards. How about Patty Mahomes? Over or under passing yards? Just pick it and hit it. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly. After you play your first $5 lineup, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Definitely be checking out PrizePicks. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Take the guesswork out of your next ticket buying experience with Gametime. Comedy, theater, music, and of course, sports. Steele and I've been loving the Gametime app, checking out some Leafs games, mostly Steele, not your boy, but that's okay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Thank you so much for all the love we've received over the last year and over the last 3 years that Flip and I have been doing this. We really appreciate it. We finally just got over 1,800 subscribers on YouTube. The goal is still in motion. We're looking to get and hit the target of 2,000 subscriptions by the end of the year. So once again, thank you so much for all that love, but let's continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you've been showing us. So we really do appreciate it. And thank you so much for all of that. That's why we do what we do every single Monday and every single episode throughout the week. Waiver Wire Mondays. You heard the first 4 names if you were listening. Gabe Vilardi, Zack Benson, JJ Peterka, all those guys, Jack Roslovic. Flip, over to you, my friend. Who else are you looking at? Because it was a great weekend in the National Hockey League.
It really was. And it's sometimes hard to kind of rein it in. It's like I was thinking about this before coming on to today's episode. It's almost like a kid in a candy store type of situation. I start to look everywhere, and obviously you want to take a look at the schedules, but sometimes you just look at the quality of a player, and it's a little bit more of a long-term game. So I'm kind of talking up this caveat here, but I want a piece of what's going on in Ottawa. And I know overall it's been a pretty disappointing season, a pretty disappointing start. They look really good at home. They're awful on the road. One game good, one game bad. Anyway, Josh Norris is only owned at 42% on ESPN and 24 on Yahoo. Again, 66 on Fantrax, a little tougher. He's out there in most leagues. He's centering a very good second line in Ottawa. And look, the injury risk is there, and I totally understand that he was left alone in a lot of drafts this year, and he fell down the board for sure. Playing with Brady Tkachuk, immediately attractive. We know if there's one thing in Ottawa, they're going to score goals, and he's getting first power play unit time. So I'm going to spit this out for you as well, Steele. This season, a little bit up and down. I believe he has 6 goals, 5 assists, something like that. So the production is there. He's also been kind of mixing it up a bit. So I like what I'm seeing from Josh Norris. This week, they got the Leafs, Flyers, and Hurricanes, so that's a bit of a tough stretch for them. But I think adding a player in Josh Norris, who for now is definitely cemented into that second-line center role, I'm thinking this might be a little bit more of a long-term play that's going to pay off for you. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to grab Josh Norris now before he goes up and take a shot on him.
Well, I'm going to head the other direction to the other Ontario team. In the Toronto Maple Leafs is where I'm looking at, but I'm liking Josh Norris and highlighting him. Obviously, got to preface the injury concern, but over to the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson, 36% on Yahoo, 17% on ESPN. I will say this as well. He has gone pointless in his last 6 games, but he's still filling out the peripherals. He was demoted to the second power play unit, but he's still playing over 21 and a half minutes of average ice time right now. So a couple of negatives to go along with it, but he's still filling out those peripherals. Like I said, he's got 6 points on the season, 16 penalty minutes, 33 shots, 17 blocks, and 29 hits. And I really like this schedule upcoming for the Toronto Maple Leafs. 3 games, the Ottawa Senators, Washington Capitals, and the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I'm really focusing on the games against the Ottawa Senators and Oilers right now because you've got the division rival in Ottawa. You've got the West rival in Edmonton. It's going to be a fast and physical paced game. You know, every single person is going to be invested and embracing that moment. And you know, against the Ottawa Senators, it is going to probably get a little ugly out there with the physicality and the aggression. I expect Oliver Ekman-Larsson, OEL, to be a part of that and produce, get a little offensive production in there as well, maybe a couple of assists. I expect him to be a big difference this upcoming week. So I wanted to highlight him if you need some help on the blue line.
I appreciate that because I just loaded up on forwards this week. It sometimes happens that way. I've got one more forward that I want to talk about in a second. We'll get to bets, but just in terms of the Leafs, that's a big week for them.
Yeah.
McDavid rolling in on Saturday as well. It doesn't get any juicier if you're a Leafs or an Oilers fan. McDavid back home regularly torches the Leafs. I was in the building a couple of years ago where he put Morgan Riley's jockstrap up in the rafters, just absolutely turned him
Put him in the
inside out,
blender.
and then roofed it. So juicy week for the Leafs. I like that you're highlighting those could be some high-scoring games as well, which could mean good things for the Leafs blue line. Leafs are looking pretty good right now, Mr. Roden. I'm just going to throw that out there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, and we'll revisit this topic multiple times over the course of the season so we don't get too heated. Now, if you don't mind, my last player, little segue from Edmonton there, Warren Fogle. Tell her what time it is, Fogle. Third line, Quentin Byfield, Alexis Lafreniere. This is a team in the LA Kings. Hard to put your finger on what they're going to do long term, but I'll say what they'll do in the short term. They're cooking right now, and they're scoring goals. 7th most goals in the NHL this season. Warren Fogle, time on ice, 14 and change, 15 and change. You don't love it. But what you do love, if you're in deeper leagues, he's got points in 3 straight games, throwing the body around a little bit, getting shots on net, 6 goals, 3 assists, doesn't jump off the page. But if you're taking a look at that line, which is really starting to cook, the Kings overall, who are scoring goals, and then you take a look at this week upcoming, Flames, Avs, and Red Wings, 3 teams kind of ripe for the taking in the offensive end. I think the Kings continue to cook. 15% on Fantrax, 4 at Yahoo, 2 at ESPN. If you need a forward bump this week, you got an injury or you need some offense, Warren Fogle, almost your Band-Aid prototypical week-to-week ad. This isn't a guy you add and keep. You add him for a good week. If he goes on a heater, you keep him. If not, see you later. But for this week, I like Warren Fogle.
I've been absolutely in love with that third line from the LA Kings.
Right?
I've got a piece of every single one of those guys. I've got Fogle and Lafreniere in one of my leagues. I've got Quentin Byfield in another. I'm absolutely loving it right now. That has been one of the best bottom 6 lines in the National Hockey League, maybe
Agreed.
the best one right now. This last player of mine, this one's really for you, Flip, and anyone out there who wants to go pick him up. Jake DeBrusk, 33% on Yahoo. I saw you got him in the competitive league. He seems to have woken up a little bit over this past week. He's got 4 points in his last 4 games. He's got 8 points on the season now, 22 shots, 5 blocks, 24 hits. Would still like to see him shoot the puck a little bit more. However, he is on the top power play unit. Overall, Vancouver has been a little below average on the man advantage compared to last season, but I expect them to pick it up a little bit. They're rocking at just over 19% right now. The problem I find with Jake DeBrusk, or the problem that could come, is his production really his value in production kind of runs through Elias Pettersson and how good he's going as well, because they are paired together on that second line right now. So even though he's on a 4-game point streak, if Pettersson's not really going, I don't expect DeBrusk to be going at the same time. However, 4 games this week on the schedule for Vancouver. I'm liking it for them. Flames, Islanders, Blackhawks, and Predators. So I'm liking the schedule for this Vancouver team. And Jake DeBrusk, again, he has kind of found his game right now, 4 points in his last 4.
I don't know if I'm going to catch a lot of hate for this, but, the goal differential, they've scored 42 goals. They've allowed 43. Just talking about Vancouver in general here, Steele, I don't know if they've been perhaps somewhat lucky to be where they are in terms of the standings, and 7-3-1 in their last games. They're just kind of okay on the power play, 16th in the league. The penalty kill doesn't exactly jump off the page, 11th. It's pretty good, but you know what I'm saying? Overall, I think they've been somewhat fortunate to be where they are, especially
100%.
with where the goalies have been. I know Lankinen's been solid, but he's gotten blown up a little bit lately. Everything with Demko and Petey struggling. Anyway, I just have my concerns about this team long term. Let's see what happens very early. They're still where they are on the table. I'm ready to get to bets, though. I think I just need to listen to what you're saying because you're cooking right now. But let's have another big week.
We're cooking. Real quick, I do just want to do an honorable mention. Ryan Donato of the Chicago Blackhawks, 7 goals, 10 points on the season. I just wanted to honorable mention him because the Blackhawks only have 2 games this upcoming week. So maybe wait until the following week to go pick him up if he can continue this hot streak. But had to mention Donato because he's been red hot for the Blackhawks right now. We are going to come back after the break with big time bets. I have been absolutely killing it. So yeah, maybe I'll take the lead this episode.
You've earned it.
Where you can place those bets, that's FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button and the follow button. Leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us. Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Flip, my man, I had a fantastic week over the weekend. It has been phenomenal. Bets hitting Saturday, bets hitting Friday. The record's improving. And we got lots of games to choose from on Monday night. Six games on the schedule on Monday. First game starting at 12:30. Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres. That's where I'm looking at first.
Okay.
I picked the Sabres on the money line on Saturday. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now, and that's exactly where I'm going back to on Monday. Sabres money line against the Canadiens. They are 5-3-2 in their last 10 games against Montreal. They're on this 3-game winning streak right now. And to be honest, alongside Andrew Brunette, I think Martin St. Louis' job is also on the hot seat right now. I mean, this is a bad start for Montreal. They have, I mean, Sam Montembeault, again, after the first game of the season where I said he's locked in, he's ready to go, he's looked dreadful.
That dropped off pretty quickly.
That dropped off so quick. I mean, I completely just threw that take out the window. Nobody saw it. Nobody heard it.
That's okay.
But they've been bad in their own zone. They've had some pretty awful goaltending. They've been very lackadaisical and sloppy in the defensive zone. Cole Caulfield probably been their highlight player all season so far. Yeah. They're just not getting enough from those depth guys or, those peripheral guys, those depth guys in the bottom six. And they're just struggling right now offensively, defensively, and everything in between. That's why I'm going Sabres on the money line for the first pick. Second pick, Stars on the money line against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They have won 5 of the last 6 versus Pittsburgh. They need to wake up right now because the Dallas Stars are 1-3-0 to start November. They cannot afford to get too far behind right now, especially with how the Winnipeg Jets are playing.
And Minnesota.
Minnesota. Stars on the money line for my second pick and my last pick. Avalanche and Preds over 6.5. 7 of the last 10 have gone over the number.
Yes.
Look, the goaltending hasn't been great for either team. Yeah. The offensive right now is clicking. Philip Forsberg had a multi-goal game the other day. Mikko Rantanen and Cale Makar, obviously. McKinnon, they're going to continue to do their thing.
Thank you.
Avalanche, Preds, over 6.5. That will be my lock of the night.
Man, we're forming like Voltron here, pal, because I'm looking at that Avs-Preds game singularly. Same game parlay coming in hot. First pick over 6.5. The last 2 games between these two teams produced a total of 18 goals. This one's going to go over the number in a hurry. And I'm looking at Mac Daddy for my second and lock of the night pick. McKinnon has been obviously the heart and soul of this team. And he only, quote unquote, has 7 goals so far this season. When last year he obviously put up the career high of 51. So from the goal scoring perspective, somewhat a slow start. You might want to see more, and I think that's going to start to happen. 59 shots on net. He's got to fire that biscuit like we know he can. And let me spit this out. Anytime goal for McKinnon in his career against the Nashville Predators. Let me just bring this up because I know he has solid numbers. My lock of the night also comes from McKinnon, which I'll spit out in a hot minute. But in his career against Nashville, 35 games played, he has 42 points, including 18 goals. So give me Mac Daddy. Anytime goal to get on off the schneid a little bit here.
Let's go
with McKinnon. 4+ shots on net. And I think he's really going to start to open up. The last game out, he had 7 shots on net. So I'm going to combine this nicely. The 4 shots on its own won't pay out a lot, but I'm going to hammer that with the anytime goal and the over. But lock of the night, if you're going to take any of those 3, McKinnon, 4+ shots on net, he's going to get his against the Nashville Predators.
You know I'm making that same game parlay with
Dang.
you. Right there with you, bud. 29 points in 15 games for Nathan McKinnon. He is the best player in the National Hockey League. To me, there is no question about it. He is the best right now.
Oh, okay.
There's no question about it to me.
You know what? That's a good conversation we should have.
That's a great conversation we should have. Nathan McKinnon leads the league right now. Obviously, Connor McDavid, he was out for a week and a half, close to 2 weeks, but nevertheless, McKinnon is getting it done regardless of the outcome of the Colorado Avalanche. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Pod your first listen every single day. Those are the picks. Those are the locks of the night. Make sure you hammer it on Monday. We really appreciate all that love and support you've been showing us Monday through Fridays when you can find our episodes from both Flip and I. We wish you good luck with all your bets tonight. We wish you good luck with all of your weekly matchups, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.